Leviticus 19:15. You shall do no injustice in the court. You shall not be partial to the poor, or defer to the great, but in righteousness shall you judge your neighbor.
I think, just to go back to Durham for a moment, how long do you think his investigation is going to take? Do you have any sense of how long he's going to take, and what will we see when he's finished?
These things take time, and I know there's a lot of impatience. People want results immediately, but those are people who don't understand our process. We have to be careful about the way we collect evidence, and we have to make sure that we have enough evidence to justify our actions, and that we're not going to cut corners in that respect. There's some people who think this thing is going to drop in a few weeks. That's not the case. I see this perhaps reaching an important watershed, perhaps in the late spring, early summer.
Crooked Hillary spent at least 3 times more than we did and lost. Crooked as hell. She's crooked as hell. We have a double-sided justice. It's very unfair what's going on. Very unfair, but let's see how it all works out, folks. Let's see how it all works out. I hope you're going to be happy. I hope you're going to be happy, because there are a lot of dishonest slime balls out there. Dishonest scum. Dirty cops. A lot of dirty cops. And by the way, the FBI, those guys in that are incredible, but the ones on top, they were absolute scum. And what they were trying to do, if that happened to Obama or a Democrat, or especially a liberal Democrat, they'd be in jail for 50 years, and it would have taken place 2 years ago already. They spied on our campaign, remember that. And after they spied, we won. And then after we won, they tried to get us out of office. It's never happened before in the history of our country. And we can't let that happen. We can never, ever excuse it. We can never let them get away with that.
Joining me now is Brian Dean Wright, former CIA officer, and Congressman Devin Nunes, ranking member of the House Intel Committee. Congressman, why is all of this happening now, and why the freakout among the never-Trumpers and the left?
Well, I can tell you when it was supposed to start. It was supposed to start when General Flynn came in as National Security Advisor. I know from my discussions with him, I served on the transition team, that he thought that the bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. across all the intel agencies was way too big, and he thought it should be shrunk down. And the DNI, where Ambassador Grinnell is going, that is a bureaucracy that was supposed to be a strategic planning arm. One of its only goals was to try to fix the process by which you get security clearances. And here we are nearly 2 decades later. That's the one thing they haven't fixed. And all they have done is got larger and larger and larger. So Republicans actually believe that the DNI does need to be downsized. But I do have to say, Laura, just so I'm perfectly clear, I'm not aware of any blacklists that have been created in Washington. That sounds like a fake news story of some kind. But I think the overall objective of reducing the size of these agencies is a good one. The more people we have out on the field, the much better we are.
I just love this idea that the president should actively, recruit people who work against his agenda and have them populate his administration. This is crazy town stuff. I mean, the idea that you would have people who are burrowed in to work against your administration's priorities is lunacy. No one would put up with that. Brian, remember that big media bombshell on the alleged Russia collusion last week? Well, now even CNN is reporting it was bogus. The senior DNI official, Shelby Pearson, told lawmakers on the House Intel Committee that Russia's interfering in the 2020 election with the goal of helping Trump. The intelligence doesn't say that, though, one senior national security official told CNN. A more reasonable interpretation of the intel is not that they have a preference. It's a step short of that. It's more that they understand that the president is someone they can work with, that he's a deal maker. So, Brian, how would an intel briefer who's described as someone who has a reputation of being injudicious with her words get to do a briefing such as this that set off this chain reaction?
Well, when the intelligence community sends a staffer to the Hill, apparently they're not sending us their best. So, look, we have one of two problems here with this person. We've got somebody who's either incompetent, which isn't really reassuring, or we have somebody who is a partisan hack, which is also deeply alarming, or perhaps both. So let's look at those two pieces. She was a career satellite imagery specialist. Why then DNI Coates selected her for this role in the depths of political analysis, the nuance necessary for that, I don't know. It's shocking. But yet we can't also say, can we, that she didn't have any particular political bias? Because we know that the whistleblower, of course, had political bias, multiple of them, actually. We also know that James Comey was leaking to achieve his partisan goals. So we can't say to the American people, that is the intelligence community, there was nothing nefarious there. And to me, as a former intelligence officer, that's actually the most alarming and sad part of this story, right? Yes, it's bad what happened, but it's the fact that you or I can't have faith in the intelligence community, right? And yet we have so many problems, so many enemies that we have to tackle and find and neutralize. And how do we do that? How does the president do that if he can't have faith that his intelligence community is on his side and on the side of the American people, instead doing what they want to do for their own personal partisan agenda?
He's supposed to hire more people like Shelby Pearson to give really bad briefings that set off this chain reaction. That's what he's supposed to do, Congressman Nunes. Congressman, breaking tonight, this is about you. House Republicans considering criminal referrals against Mueller prosecutors. You're looking into those 302s, those infamous 302s, how this whole deal started. What can you tell us tonight, because people want accountability here?
So slowly but surely, some of the reports are being declassified. So about a few weeks ago, I actually mentioned this on a couple of the shows, that we were going through those reports and then beginning to match them up to the Mueller indictments and the Mueller recommendations for prosecution. And one of the things that we found, and Lee Smith has done some great reporting on this, and he has a story out today on it, is that remember the whole story that Papadopoulos needed to be really treated badly and sentenced to some time because he really stopped the FBI from being able to find Joseph Mifsud? Remember all that? Well, it ends up that's not true. That's not what the 302s say. The 302s actually say that Papadopoulos was actually trying to help the FBI, and they're the ones who said that Mifsud was going to be in the United States. And so if the lawyers that wrote that to the court, and to the recommendation to the court, they need to be held accountable. So we're scrubbing through all of these 302s, and we will be making some type of criminal referral. Perhaps Attorney General Barr is appointed, and a U.S. attorney out of Missouri. We'll see exactly what that U.S. attorney is looking at. But it's not okay to lie to a federal judge, especially about something so serious as somebody who's going to be indicted to serve prison time.
Now, as Brian said, as you've said so many times, and you've both written and spoken about this, we need to be able to trust our intel. It should not be political, and our FBI, the way it proceeds, has to be fair across the board without regard to party politics. That's all the president's asking for. He's not asking for special treatment.
We're exposing the corruption of the Washington Democrats, and we're draining the Washington swamp. I just didn't know how dirty it would be. I didn't know how deep it would be. When I said drain the swamp, for a long time, now here's the bad part. I never knew the swamp was so bad. It's really bad, but we're winning, and we're winning. Not easy, but we're winning. A lot of dirty people. A lot of very bad people. A lot of bad people, and I think justice will be had. I do believe that, or I wouldn't be very happy right now. We got through everything we've got through. They gave us the Mueller hoax. They gave us the Russia crap. They gave us the One phone call that was a perfect phone call. Oh, let's get him out of office for that phone call. And really, together, we're preserving this exceptional nation that our ancestors fought and died to build. We are making America greater than ever before. We really are. I think it's going to be greater than ever before with what we're doing with our military and what we're doing also to get rid of very bad people. We have such bad people, and they're not people that love our country. We're getting people that really love our country, and it's so important. And if I wasn't able to fulfill that, no matter what other things we've done, I would not consider this journey to be a success. So just remember that. From the moment I took the oath of office, the left has pursued a relentless crusade to overturn the results of the 2016 election and sabotage our next election. You know that. It was all a big hoax, you know that. Disgraceful. We caught the dirty cop on top. Had I not fired Comey, would have been a whole different story. Would have been a whole difference. That was a great firing, I'll tell you. A lot of people said, oh, you shouldn't have done that. No, just the opposite. We didn't fire him. Remember the insurance policy, right? They're coming after me, and we fight it back. Now we're going after them because we have no choice. We have to straighten out our country. But despite the best efforts of the left-wing fanatics, their scams, schemes, slanders, they've all been discredited, totally discredited. How's Comey doing? How is, by the way, how's Bob Mueller doing? That was a great performance in Congress. Raise your right hand. What? Did you want a job in the White House, running the FBI? No. Oh, he did. What happened to him? That was a lie. We have it down. He said no, it was a lie. He wanted a job. He wanted to be director of the FBI. And then they appointed him the following day into special counsel. I call it special prosecutor because special prosecutor is a much more accurate name. But their sinister plots have been exposed and their credibility has been totally destroyed. They're still just dealing with the embers, you know, a little bit like Pocahontas. She had those embers and she started coming up and that was the end. But they have embers too. They have a lot of bad people around, but one by one. With the help of everyone here today, the American dream is back, bigger, better, and stronger than ever before.
So let's talk about, you know, the FISA abuse, okay? We'll use that term. The Horowitz report came out. Actually, subsequent to the Horowitz report, we now know that at least 2 of the Carter Page applications were improperly predicated. I think they're still looking at well, a great many things there. What do you feel, but there's been a lot of debate about the effectiveness of the Horowitz report and what it actually said. What is your take?
Well, so I worked directly with Horowitz on many of his investigations. I mean, he does not report to the Attorney General, but he keeps the Attorney General advised. And so if you think about all the things that were going on, whether it was the Hillary Clinton email server, whether it was Andy McCabe's leaking, and whether it was, you know, sort of FISA. I read the report from the Inspector General on Andy McCabe's behaviors. There were 3 or 4 examples where he had essentially lied. They said lacked candor, but that's lying. And they were you know, we risk a real challenge here, and that is as if people are charged with lying and they're only supporters of the president, like we saw with George Papadopoulos, for example. But somebody that's the deputy director and then ultimately the acting director of the FBI isn't charged. I worry about the 2 tiers of justice, and you know, the thing that I can't do is I don't know after I left how they made that decision based on everything I knew before I left. So ultimately, I think this is an area where somebody from the Department of Justice, whether it's the U.S. Attorney in D.C. or the Attorney General or somebody else, the appropriate person, needs to explain kind of how this decision was made. Because I can't explain it. It's that simple.
Okay. That's very interesting. So let's talk about Durham for a moment, okay? Because we know that he was actually conducting a criminal investigation into James Baker as early as 2018, or I think late 2018. Do you think that he was investigating more than that prior to Barr asking him to investigate Crossfire Hurricane? Is that...
Yeah, so I'm familiar with all of that.
Yeah.
I can't talk about some of that.
Okay.
Of what was happening in 2018 with Durham. What I do know is Durham's the right guy to investigate it. My experience with him is his work is complete and exhaustive, and so I think ultimately, he's going to take whatever time and have whatever resources necessary to see what comes to bear in this regard.
So, from what you've seen, what kind of a timeline might that be? Do we have any hints? Because no one seems to know, right?
I keep hearing spring, I know I've seen flowers sprouting right now, so spring is close.
Amos 5:24. But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.
What they did to us, they tried to do. And yet, can you imagine with all of that, going through all of that, with a cloud over your head like nobody's ever had, for us to have seriously done more than any other administration? I mean, it's sort of a miracle when you think. Sort of a miracle, or it's a toughness, or it's something. Maybe it's right there, right? Thank you. Thank you, God.